Is it reunion time in the 305? Christian Wilkins is still a free agent. Could the Miami Dolphins go out there and bring him in? I am Nick Roloff. This is Dolphins Today. The reason why we are having this conversation is because through the first 4 weeks of the NFL season, the Miami Dolphins run defense has been absolutely horrific. You could argue it is the worst run defense in football, but it is at bare minimum bottom 3, bottom 5 in the NFL. I mean, you look at the raw numbers here, and it's just a train wreck. They give up the third most yards per game at 158.0. They have the 29th ranked yards per play allowed. They're 31st in yards before contact allowed. Their defensive front is simply getting blown off the football to where their opposing running backs are getting 2-3 yards before touched on almost every single carry. And it's not just the run defense that is absolutely terrible. It's the entire thing. Give up 29.5 points per game, ranking in the bottom 10 in the NFL. Same thing with yards per game, EPA per play. Pressure rate is 25th. And the third down rate is the second worst number in the NFL as well. I mean, there's just no arguing that the defense for Miami is an absolute liability. And I'm not going to sit up here and act like the Dolphins would be an elite football team if they had a good defense. But if you gave the Dolphins an average defense, they're at least 2-2 right now. Like, without a question, they're 2-2. Because they've been unable to get stops in the first 3 games of the year. And the offense actually, for better or for worse, it was bad in week 1. They were going to lose week 1 regardless. But if they had an average defense, they're probably beating one of the Buffalo Bills or New England Patriots. And we're sitting at 2-2 right here with still a chance to really make a push here before the trade deadline on November 4th and make a wild card spot, because the AFC honestly has been a little down. The Texans have struggled. The Ravens have struggled. The opportunity is there. The Bengals, like, this would have been a good opportunity for Miami if they were able to have a solid defense. If the Dolphins do make a roster move, whether it is a signing or anything else, we will have you covered with a video. Subscribe today for daily Dolphins coverage. You may remember the Raiders ultimately waived Christian Wilkins with an injury designation back in July. We made a video about potentially bringing back Wilkins, and I was very stern on the matter. I said, no way, Jose. I would not bring back Christian Wilkins. But that was also before I realized the Dolphins were going to have the worst run defense in all of football. I expected this to be a strong point for this team with Zach Sieler, Kenneth Grant, Benito Jones, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson, like Jordan Brooks, Willie Gay, Tyrell Dodson. It's just so bad. So adding a player like Wilkins may ultimately improve that run defense. And he has been an elite player in his career. I don't think I have to inform you guys on that after all of us watching him for the first 5 seasons of his career. One of the most consistently highly graded defensive tackles, consistently in the backfield, whether it's rushing the passer, whether it's making plays in the run games, being a tackle for loss freak. He was a dominating force. And when healthy, he is a dominating force. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, how healthy is Christian Wilkins? And when would he be able to return? And is it worth it for Miami to bring him back into their locker room? We'll have more on the conversation here in a second, but I want it to be your turn. You guys take Chris Grier's job, be the GM, pin comment. Would you bring Christian Wilkins back to this Dolphins locker room and reunite him with Zach Sieler? Let me know. Well, I do truly have no clue on when Zach Sieler and Wilkins would even play together if you brought Wilkins back. I don't know when he's going to be healthy and able to return to the football field. If you remember, Wilkins suffered a massive foot injury in October of 2024, so pretty much a year from where we're going right now. But he originally had a Jones fracture. Well, allegedly this offseason, he suffered another foot injury, not a Jones fracture, but in that same foot. And some of the reports and rumors out of Las Vegas was that they wanted him to get another surgery so they can just have it be fully healed, everything be fine. And yes, he would be out for some time, but he'd return fully healthy. Well, Wilkins apparently didn't want to get another surgery. And that's kind of why, alongside some other locker room things, he was ultimately released. But if you are projecting a potential return for Christian Wilkins, I do think he would be ready potentially around week 12. That would be in mid-November, which would have had a lot of time for him to recover and rehab his foot injury from when he suffered this alleged extra injury back in June and July. Now, the other thing I'll say here, I doubt the Dolphins ultimately go out and re-sign Christian Wilkins. I actually also believe, I don't know if Wilkins would even want to return to the Miami Dolphins. Let's just face it, Wilkins will likely be signing a one-year vetman deal. I mean, he's not going to get much right now due to his injury history and whatever happened in the locker room concern. And I think a contender would be the team that he ultimately goes to. But maybe he would want to return to play for Mike McDaniel again because he did have a really good 2 seasons in Miami under Mike McDaniel, which ultimately led him to getting that massive payday in free agency by the Raiders. More coming up here in a second, but the Dolphins got the win in their rivalry unis this past Monday. Grab your Dolphins rivalry gear today at chatsports.com/Dolphins rivalry. Links in the description and comments today's video. They have jerseys for any player of your choice. They have hats. They have sweatshirts. They have polos. They have any type of gear you could think of when it comes to the rivalry collection. Once again, go grab yours right now. Chatsports.com/Dolphins rivalry is the link. Well, if you do not bring in Christian Wilkins, you will need a rookie to step up. And you might just need a rookie to step up regardless because the 2 rookies that you drafted this year have not been impactful through the first month of the season. And it's why the Dolphins' run defense has struggled, and it's why I think signing Wilkins might actually be a good idea for the Fins. You look at the 2. Kenneth Grant, obviously the first-round pick out of Michigan, and then Phillips, the 5th-round pick out of Maryland. Your 5th-round pick has actually outperformed Kenneth Grant through the first month of the season. He has a higher stop percentage against the run. He is graded out better in everything besides tackling. Yeah, Kenneth Grant's a better pass rusher. We knew that already because Phillips is more of a nose tackle, run stopper, space eater. Grant's more of that fluid athlete, hybrid run stopper, pass rusher, at least projected type of interior defensive lineman. This duo was expected to be productive. It may be unfair, but it's the truth here. The Dolphins were counting on one of these 2, if not both of these defensive linemen, to produce instantly for this Dolphins defense. And they have not been able to do it whatsoever. They have both had flashes of plays in the run game, but you cannot confidently say they have been consistent in their ability to impact the game on the defensive side of the football field. But it also doesn't help that one of the veterans that you expected to be helpful for this defense, Benito Jones, has been awfully quiet too. He just has. He was very good for Miami last season out of the blue when the Dolphins had to deal with a lot of injuries. But this season, due to some injuries as well as just poor play, he has only been on the field for 42 snaps. If you remember just a moment ago, Kenneth Grant is sitting at about 140 snaps. Jordan Phillips is about 119. So they're double and tripling up Jones' snap count. But, I mean, you have to argue that's the right decision because even though Grant and Phillips have been underwhelming, they are better than what Benito Jones has been in his limited opportunities. He has not made a play behind the line of scrimmage in a run play. He has not generated any pressure in pass rushing situations. He has been non-existent on the football field, somehow even worse than Kenneth Grant, who's a bottom 3 graded defensive lineman in football. So what does that tell you about Benito Jones? Who has been the most disappointing for the Dolphins through the first month of the season? Kenneth Grant, Jordan Phillips, or Benito Jones? I think the argument would have to be made for the first-round pick, Kenneth Grant, right? Like, that would certainly be my pick. Like, sure, you would have hoped to get more consistent play out of Benito Jones, but Grant was the 13th overall pick, and he has been pretty non-existent. Can't be Jordan Phillips out of those 3 because he's a 5th-rounder, and you're just happy that he's been able to be on the field for the Dolphins. But final word on today's show. I would bring back Christian Wilkins for all the reasons I labeled throughout today's show. The defense being so bad against the run, the young Bulls not performing. And you would also be able to have Christian Wilkins potentially mentor those young defensive linemen and give them the tips and tools of the trade that they need to potentially succeed. But I also don't expect it to happen. I would anticipate Chris Grier passing on bringing back Christian Wilkins, which means one of those young bucks will absolutely need to bring it as we progress throughout this season. All right, that'll do it for today's show. As I said, if the Dolphins do make a roster move, whether it's an IR move, a signing, we will have you covered. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more on the Miami Dolphins.